Hi everyone and welcome back to World Literature class. So for today's session, we're going to be dealing with English and American literature. So if we're going to be looking into the overview of English and American literature, this is more of looking into the literary themes from the different periods and how it had grown from the monarchy going into the modern classical period. So let's now proceed and I'll be sharing you my screen already. Mhm. So let's now proceed, everyone. So again, we're going to be dealing with the major periods of English and American literature. So here at the major periods of American English and American literature, we're going to be looking into the style, the type of literature from a historical context, and the indicative of the controlling philosophical perspective of the time. And we're going to be looking also into the literary characteristics of this period, which is the English and American literature. So let's move on. So let's start with the history of English and American literature. The start of the English and American really started from Old English between 450 and 1066. Since there is a what we call of invasion and exploration of a people from the British going to the Americans and all. So they have what we call the some of the surviving texts that are really looking into the uh, closer relationship of modern German to the modern English. So one of which of the surviving texts are the following: Beowulf and also Beowulf of the Wanderer. Okay, so if we're going to be looking into the Beowulf as a literary text, they try to use Old English like the use of the die, the thee, the thou, and all. So not only with that, but they try to put their literary writings into their Old English also. So if you're going to be looking at it, they try to use Gothic style of writing. So next one is about the Middle English. Here at the Middle English, one of the well-known writer here is Geoffrey Chaucer. So Geoffrey Chaucer is well known for the Canterbury Tales, and therefore they try to have literary work as to be performed. So written for performance at court or for festival. And they try to use literary works into a religiously didactic content. So let's now move on. So here we have also the English Renaissance, and one of the well-known literary writers are Aristotle, Ovid, and other Greco-Roman thinkers. Here they try to use the primary text into performances like plays and masquerades. So the well-known writers are the following: Shakespeare, Bacon, Marlowe, Johnson, Fletcher, and Beaumont. So next one here, after that one, we have the Neoclassical Period. Here at the Neoclassical Period, as well as known as Enlightenment and the Age of Reason at 1660 for England and America at 1750 at 1800s, there is an expansion of the Renaissance in direction of order and restraint. And therefore, there is an emphasis of classical ideas of rationality and control. So here, art should reflect the universal commonality of human nature. So here, at neoclassical period, they have the belief of all men are created equal, and therefore it is clearly presented into their literary work. So there is an emphasis of reasoning, and they as the highest faculty. That's why if we're going to be looking into their literary works, more of reasoning, more of logical thing. So writing here at neoclassical period are structured, controlled, and has an emphasis of the quality of wit. So the examples of the literary writers are John Locke, John Milton, Pope, Franklin, Paine, Jefferson, and Madison. So after the neoclassical period, we have the Romantic period, since this is a romantic period, this is more of romances that creates industrial revolution and the scientific of rationality. So there is also an emphasis of individuality, intuition, and imagination, idealism, and nature. So when we talk about romanticizing and all, they try to look into mystery and supernatural, looking also into folklore and myth. Next one is for a romantic period. These are the well-known writers: Burns, Blake, Wordsworth, Coleridge, Shelley, and also Walter Scott. So if we're going to be looking at into their write-ups, they are more of into nature. So nature and the things that you see in nature. So we have also Irving, Moore. We have also Edgar Allan Poe, very well known with some of romances and nature. Colin Bryan, Holmes, Longfellow, and Lowell. Next one is the American Presidentialism. So this is a kind of romantic philosophy that has a belief with spiritual nature, rationality, and religious doctrine. So this was developed in New England, influenced by Eastern philosophy, and more of if you're going to be looking at it, it really goes with already with modern classical period that goes into societal issue already. So the pro-suffrage and the abolitionists. So well-known people or well-known artists here are the following: Walt Whitman, Thoreau, and Emerson. So we have here the Victorian period, named for the reign of Queen Victoria as the Britain's longest reigning monarch. So this is a period where stability and prosperity of Britain are very presented. So there is also British society extremely class conscious, and there is a breach between Romanticism and Modernism. So there is a portrayal of common people, promoting social change, and some writers continue to explore Gothic themes as beginning into the Romantic period. Next one is the writers under Victorian period. Oscar Wilde. I know you're very familiar with Oscar Wilde, Browning, Dickens. So if you're going to be looking at it, this is more of wit and more of the combination already of nature and also the different adventures into scientific one. Next one is the realistic period. Realistic period wherein they are already, looking into not on the idealist side, but trying to look into what is happening into the reality. So therefore, there is an emphasis of the commonplace and ordinary people, wherein one of which is the example of the adventure of Huckleberry Finn of Mark Twain. So they are trying to depict life and not idealized. Here also they try to look into the hyperrealism. So naturalism and hyperrealism. So this one is looking into presenting that man is simply higher than, higher order animal. And therefore they try to have possess the characteristic of constraining and limitation, between animals and humans. So they try to have the control of heredity and environment here also. We have the Edwardian period, named for King Edward, that really look into the continuation of Victorian period, that looks into and coming up with the distinction and difference between literature and popular fiction. So here also at modern period, they try to look into the values that are invalid. They are trying to deviate from it through art. So art is a tool to establish new values, and writers experiment it with different forms. So with other forms. So forms and content reflect the confusion and vicissitude of modern life. So exposition and resolutions are now omitted, and therefore they try to have type of literary texts that are implied. and not stated. So the examples of that are the following, like the road not taken by Robert Frost, and the wanderings of Oisin and other poems. So we have also some like fictional texts that are not, literary, presented, the meaning, but implied. So we have the postmodern period. Here at postmodern period, there is a dispute already of the actual period of the renewal and continuation of modernism of post World War II. So here they are influenced already by Freud, Sartre, Camus, Derrida, and Foucault. So there is already the construction that text has no inherent meaning, and therefore there is a tension between the text ambiguities and contradiction are revealed upon close reading. So there is already countercultural revolution, and therefore they are presenting already, the pros and cons of scientific reality and like that. So next one. So these are the literary writers. So that's all for the English and American literature.